today I'm with Ben Barnett and he is going to be doing some auricular acupuncture on me, which I've never had before, and I've got some respiratory issues at the moment. So here's hoping we'll learn together through that experience and I'll get some relief too.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ben Barnett. One of the modalities that I practice in my holistic therapy practice of 30 years is auricular acupuncture. So auricular acupuncture is using the ear as a microcosm for the whole body. If you look at the ear, almost like it's an embryo upside down, so the head is at the bottom. And you have about 70 acupuncture points in a single ear, and we work on both sides. And they relate to particular body parts, to particular functions in the body, and particular conditions. So you can treat things like sciatica, for example, or hay fever from particular points in the ear. We're going to be doing something a bit more spiritually based today with Charlotte. So Charlotte, have you got any particular questions about origins of auricular acupuncture, like, you know, that kind of thing?
A lot of people would have heard of acupuncture where it's using the whole body, but is auricular acupuncture just very specialised? Or?
Well, it's kind of, in the West, it's kind of considered like an adjunct, but it can be a standalone modality in its own way. In the same way that reflexology can be considered a separation of acupressure massage. So you have microcosms in a number of different areas. So the hand, the foot, the iris, the hara, the tongue, and you can use them to treat the whole body. And in this case, auricular acupuncture has been identified as a really good way of being able to work on the whole body, for the client to remain clothed, for you to be able to do things without working directly on that body part. So there are also really good modalities you can use for preparing for things like hay fever. So you can have it in spring to give you more resilience against hay fever.
Jackie does that, but she uses a laser rather than needles. Is it the same principle?
Yeah, it is the same principle in terms of you're working on the same points, but you can work invasively with needles, which is what I'm going to do in a moment. You can also work with seeds or magnets, which sit on top of the skin and still stimulate the acupuncture points. And I've also been trained in electrostimulation, which is a bit like a TENS machine, but with a tiny little probe. And so you use the probe to electrically stimulate the acupuncture points as well. So for people who don't like needles or needle phobic,
because that's got to be a thing that puts some people off.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I've never had acupuncture of any type. Not because I'm scared of needles. I've never had, but the needle thing is definitely a nervousness for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I don't even call them needles, I'll call them pins. These ones are thinner than a human hair, in fact. And so sometimes when they're put into the skin, you don't
even feel them.
Yeah, but equally, there is some pathological connection between where you're putting your needles and what's happening in the client's body. That means that certain points are more sensitive if they are active. Yeah, so,
yes, I certainly know that with reflexology. Yeah. When I had reflexology, when I had a really bad bowel, every time they touched the parts of the foot related to the bowel, it hurt like hell, right? So I'm guessing it could be quite similar here, where if I've got a respiratory challenge, it may be. We'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know. Okay.
And then this is one of the modalities I used to teach for the British College of Auricular Acupuncture as well. So
a man of many talents is our Ben.
Right. Okay, great. So let's grab some needles and see how we go.
Exciting.
Okay, so just to give people a little anatomy and physiology lesson about the ear. So as I said, if you look at the ear as an embryo, you've got the head down at the bottom through here, and then this harder area in the ear is relating to the occiput, to the back of the head. This hard line that runs through the middle of the ear, which is the antihelix, actually then relates to the spine. So you've got the cervical spine, thoracic spine flattens out, and then you've got the lumbar spine coming through here. You've got the internal organs in here, which means below this, which is called the cross of the helix. Below that, you've got the area which is where the lungs and the heart would be. So if I'm working with those kinds of conditions, that's where you'd work. You've got the abdominal area kind of going around where the diaphragm would be, and then you've got the pelvis up here in the upper part. So I'm going to do a kind of standard protocol with 5 points, but I'm going to take a couple of those points out and put a couple of other ones in. And the points I'm going to put in will be one which is related to antihistamine, and then I'm going to put a specific point for the lungs. Okay, and we start off with 2 points at the top of the ear. The first one is a point that helps the autonomic nervous system to regulate, also produces endorphins.
I can confirm it does not hurt.
Okay, that's the first one. And then the second one is called Shen Men, or which is also known as Spirit Gate. And that point
again felt nothing.
correlates to the kind of base of the spine, kind of around about the base chakra actually. So that's those two. And then there's one at the top of the ear, which is the one of two antihistamine points, which also relates to hay fever as well. How did that feel?
Oh, I mean, that I could feel that one more than the other two, but not painful.
Very good. And then there's the 0 point, which is right on the cross of the helix. That you could have felt that one more.
Felt that one.
Yeah.
But literally just for a second.
Yeah. And then the lung point. Did you feel that one most? Yeah. That would fit with it being directly lung related.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So, now, what's the sensation that you're feeling right now?
So I can feel that there's something in my ear, but I can't feel the pins, if that makes sense. So almost like feeling you have of something having been there but isn't there anymore.
Yeah. That's quite a common sensation with crystalline energy in the body, is that we kind of get trained out of the habit of being that sensitive to particular aspects of our body. I often say to people, where's the pain, when I'm doing massage with them, for example, and they will say, I can't really locate it. It's kind of in a general area, and that's partly to do with how the body kind of pings certain structures in the body or certain nerves to check to see if there's a problem there, and equally how the body then incapacitates certain areas just to allow you to heal and not use them, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of get, we lose a sense of discernment in particular parts of the body. So having more auricular acupuncture, you actually get more sensitive to parts of your ear.
And I'm guessing that a lot of people stopped listening to their bodies. Like we override, don't we?
Exactly.
And a lot of people, who perhaps I don't know, they just have that ache and pain for years, and you're like, you do know that that's your body trying to tell you something, right?
Exactly.
But we have just been almost taught, haven't we, to not listen.
Yeah.
It feels like.
And a lot of what would be called Western medical approach to dealing with symptom is about just turning the volume down.
Exactly.
Like painkillers and what have you. It's not actually getting to the source of the issue. And so there's a mindset that's also connected to that. Oh, I'll put it up to one side, I'll deal with it later. Or it's not as big a deal, which allows the energy that often as holistic therapists we're trying to deal with to kind of go inwards into the body rather than to come out and then be addressed. Yeah. So I'm going to carry on doing some needling whilst if you have any other questions, you're welcome to
I do.
Ask me those now.
So when you add a needle in, what in principle is it doing to the energy? Is that about creating a release for that energy, like you're just talking about there? Like, what's the principle within the Chinese medicine?
Yeah, in acupuncture generally, the idea is that you have these energy centers that are underneath the skin called tubos, and almost think of it like a little vessel full of energy. And if there's a lack, so some people have one side that's more sensitive than the other. Is that if there's a lack of energy, putting an acupuncture point in stimulates the body to bring energy to that side.
Right.
And then if there's an excess of energy, then putting an acupuncture point in, an acupuncture needle in, or however you're stimulating it, then stimulates the body to release that. And
so it's about, as you said, getting back to homeostasis.
Exactly, and balance. That's right. And
that's
part of the way that auricular acupuncture works is you could consider that putting the needle in actually just stimulates the body. Oh, this, something foreign in the ear. Let's go check out and see what's happening in that area. There is an argument to say that electrostimulation and putting metal into the ear actually creates an electrical stimulation.
Got ya.
Which also means that if you put an acupuncture press seed. That because seeds are natural, then it's more about the pressure on that area. So sometimes if people are trying to give up smoking, they'll actually have a point which they'll press on the lung point. So as they start to feel that anxiety that then leads them to want to smoke, they can stimulate and release that themselves. Do you want to just uncross your legs for me, Charlotte, because that allows the chi to flow more easily through your body.
Got to have a flowing chi. Okay. Because I think there are lots of products, aren't there, that are now based on this. You can get, as you said, the ones for hay fever that clip on the ear, or for anti-smoking, or for weight loss, all these things. So it's all about, as you said, it's a way of giving the body a direction of what you want them to do. I want you to go and have a look at my lungs, please, is what we're basically saying.
Exactly right. And so then what inside that whole definition of why it's a holistic therapy If the body goes and checks that area and there's no issue there, then it doesn't make any correction.
Yeah.
Whereas often from a Western perspective, if you take a medication and say, for example, it's a blood pressure medication, it will affect your
regardless of
regardless
it
of
needs
whether it needs it or not.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that equally means that after about 30 to 45 minutes, often people will find one of two things happens. Either they just start to feel that they're not getting any sensation anymore in the acupuncture points because the work that's needed to be done to trigger the body's been done, or even that the needles actually start to be pushed out of the ear.
Really?
I've had that happen.
That sounds cool.
They get pushed out and then they just kind of fall on the client's shoulder. But I've actually had needles that have just been pinged out completely. And the other side of that is that sometimes when you take needles out, it almost feels like the needle's being held onto by the body, like, oh, actually we could do with another like 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, I tend to work to 30 to 45 minutes as like a standard length and protocol.
Nice.
If you're
you really feel absolutely nothing.
If you're an expert auricular acupuncturist, you will know that I've just done something that is not best practice, which is that I took my needles out from the top downwards. And the reason why we don't really do that is because if there is any bleeding, then it bleeds onto your needles. So normally I take them in from the bottom.
Well, why did you not do it right for me?
Sometimes I like to do things slightly out of protocol.
Rebel. He's a rebel.
Just to see if anybody notices and sends in. So if you notice anything like that in our videos, we might actually put a little prize.